It is Chris. It is Monday, April the 22nd. I've dressed up again for you because this is that important. So on Sunday, I read a piece by a friend who's also an amazing reporter named Maggie Haberman at the New York Times. You may have heard of it and her. And in it, it included a paragraph that I'm going to read to you. This is about Donald Trump and his trial. For the first few minutes of each day during jury selection, a small pool of still photographers were ushered into Part 59 on the 15th floor of the courthouse. Mr. Trump, obsessed with being seen as strong and being seen generally, prepared for them to rush in front of him by adjusting his suit jacket, contorting his face into a jut-jawed scowl. But by day's end on Friday, Mr. Trump appeared haggard and rumpled, his gait off-center, his eyes blank. Mr. Trump has often seemed to fade into the background in a light wood paneled room with harsh fluorescent lighting and a perpetual smell of sour coffee-laced breath wafting throughout. Great imagery, right? So, I actually think this is really important. I don't think, and I've made videos about this before, I don't think there's a whole heck of a lot that this trial is going to change about how the public views Donald Trump. I think the views are pretty much baked in at this point. I think people who support him think this is a phony trial and trumped up, sorry for the word, evidence and all that sort of thing. I think the people who hate him are obsessed with him falling asleep in the courtroom and farting and all that sort of stuff that's been reported on. But I think for the average person, they're not like, oh, let me watch this trial closely because it's going to determine my vote, right? I think they kind of have a baked-in idea of what they think of Trump. But what I didn't consider, and I think what Maggie's piece gets to, and I think is worth thinking about, is this. How does this trial impact Trump's self-image? Right? How does it impact how he sees and views himself? So, Donald Trump is obviously obsessed with looking strong and powerful and the best and the hero of his story. One of my favorite quotes from him ever, because I think it's so revealing. In 1990, he gave an interview with Playboy magazine in which he said, "The show is Trump, and it sold out performances everywhere." Think about that for a second. So this is a man who sees his life effectively, this is long before he got into politics, as a performance. And he is the lead actor, right? He's telling a story to the public of his life in which he is the hero. He is the guy who rides in on the white steed, right? He is the savior. This courtroom and this trial does not allow Donald Trump to be any of those things, right? He is the defendant. He has to sit there mostly. He can't look at his phone. There are reports, yes, that he keeps falling asleep during the hearings. The overall perception is of, and I use this word hesitatingly, shrinkage. He looks small. He looks weak. He looks out of control. And Donald Trump hates every one of those adjectives I just used, right? He spends his whole life trying to look and act and sound tough. Remember his mugshot in the Fulton County case, right? Scowling, and then they sold and sell shirts and mugs and everything else with that mugshot on it, right? Like everything is about him being tough. If you ask his supporters, and lots of pollsters do this, if you ask his supporters, what's the one word that best describes Trump to you? Strong is the word that comes up the most. Ballsy is also mentioned a lot. Leader, right? He looks like none of these things in kind of like a rundown courtroom on the 15th floor of a building in New York City. This is not the gold and glitzy lifestyle that Donald Trump is selling. It is mundane. It is, yes, at times boring. And he doesn't look like he's in control of the situation. I do think this does have a material effect on how he acts. So at the end of every day, court day, he's taken to giving these impromptu press conferences where he just sort of complains. It's like a stream of consciousness. He complains about everything from election interference by Joe Biden to how cold it is in the room. His True Social feed is filled with things about how he can't believe he has to do this. right? He's out of control. And I don't mean he's crazy and out of control. I mean, he's not in control of his surroundings, which for a guy who is a billionaire, who has built all of his businesses, who surrounded himself with his family and hangers-on largely, he's out of his comfort zone. And I think that does have a real and material impact on how he acts, how he looks, and how he behaves. And that's going to be the truth and the case for the next six-ish weeks, right? He's going to be in this trial for the next 6 weeks, regardless of whether he's convicted or not convicted. That has an impact on his psyche and on his behavior. And so I would keep an eye on that, because I don't think Donald Trump likes to look small. He likes to look big. And right now, there's a serious case of shrinkage going on. All right, that's all I got for today. Remember, we do this every day, at least 4 days a week. And then on Fridays, I do a live stream that I love doing and I hope you check out. 1 p.m. every Friday. In the meantime, like this video, subscribe to this channel. And if you've already done those 2 things, do me a favor and tell 5 people you know that this is a channel they should check out. All right, take care. See you tomorrow.